right. Our first speaker today is Matt Hiefield. He has been a long time social studies teacher within the Beaverton School District and is currently working with the district on digital curriculum and technology issues. He's passionate about how digital inequalities impact students and how they can affect their chances for success. With help from Sunset Leadership, District Leadership, and Ms. Casanelli in the Sunset Media Center, he's piloted the Sunset Hotspot Checkout project, and he's currently working within the district to focus on digital divide issues. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. My colleagues, when I told them I was going to come present to you on the digital divide, they were like, that isn't a real, high energy topic, but I'm really passionate about it, and I'll try to make the case that it's something that we should all be really thinking about. So I would like to start by hearing from some students. Or actually, before we hear from some students, let me tell you a little bit about this presentation. A little music. By the way, if you ever want to use that handwriting thing for a project, just go to explee.com, and it's pretty easy to use, pretty fun. So, in the past couple years, there's been a ton of technology that's come into Sunset High School, to all the high schools and middle schools, and to elementary schools, and it is affecting how students learn and how teachers teach. And for the most part, it's been a really good experience for a lot of students. It's really pushed the envelope. But there are drawbacks too, and that's what I want you to think about today. The digital divide used to refer to people who did not have a computer or device at home to log on to the internet. But now, every Sunset student has a computer they can take home, right? Problem solved. Well, not necessarily, because not all students have access at home. So I want you to hear a few voices from students across the country talking about what internet access means to them and how it affects them in their studies. Connectivity to the internet equips today's youth with the resources needed for academic success. The problem is that not every student is properly connected or equally equipped. Today, 5 million U.S. families with school-aged children do not have broadband access at home. We sat down with kids who are the most affected by this problem to talk about their real life challenges and what it means to them.
I want to be a very, very successful businessman.
I want to go into music. I want to become like a recording artist, like a music producer.
I want to be a chef when I grow up.
Is the internet a part of your life at all?
It is my life.
When I got to high school, it really hit me like, wow, like how much I really needed it.
Almost all of our homework requires Wi-Fi. So without Wi-Fi, I can't access my homework, check my grades, or check my emails.
We have papers or like research stuff.
This is all I have is school, and that's really the only thing that's going for me right now. My grades and just school.
I can't do the work I need to do unless I'm connected.
You don't have the internet, you said?
No.
I don't have access to the internet.
No, I don't. I did,
my mama can't afford it. And I just don't think she's, she doesn't really worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Like she doesn't know the power of the internet.
The internet is expensive.
But my job has Wi-Fi. So when I go, when I go to work, I have a 30-minute break. Well, actually, I asked for a 30-minute break so I can do a little studying.
I'll go to a lot of hotels because they have a lot of internet, obviously. Just a lot of businesses and that have guest Wi-Fi. Don't take the internet for granted because there are some kids out there who would die for the place that you're in now.
With no connectivity, these students are being left behind. So I want to share with you a digital aha moment that I had as a teacher. And it happened 2 years ago. And it happened with a student named Chris. Actually, it's a different name, but I'm just going to use the name Chris. And he was in my 9th grade global studies class. Any 9th graders here? All right, about half. So 9th grade, Chris, and we were doing a project on probably, I think it was maybe hunter-gatherers. I don't know if you did that project this year. And students were working in groups, and we had carts of Chromebooks, and I thought I was the connected teacher. I was assigning stuff through Google Classroom. I had protocols for working together collectively to come up with a pretty cool project using different software like Explee or Plotagon or different types of things to use to show your knowledge. Well, Chris was a pretty hard worker, but his group members came to complain to me. They're like, "Hey, Mr. Hiefield, I don't know if we can go because Chris just doesn't seem to get his work done. He's kind of lazy." And some of you have been in that situation before, maybe, where you've been in a group that doesn't function very well, and you're like, "I'm gonna have to do all the work," or, my grade's gonna get tanked. But these students were really concerned, and I talked to Chris about it, and he was working hard in class, but he was like, I'm doing my best, Mr. Hiefield. And the day of the presentation came, guess what? Chris didn't follow through. He didn't get his work done. And a lot of this work was being done outside for homework, right? And I assumed the worst. I assumed that he didn't care about what I was teaching. I assumed that he didn't care about his fellow students. I kind of looked down on him, to tell you the truth. And it was my aha moment. It took me till December to realize, when I kept on talking with him, that he didn't have access at home. Now, you think, we're in the middle of Beaverton. Who doesn't have access to the internet, right? But the more research I've done, the more I realize that there's a lot of students. Sunset happens to be one of the most connected to the internet, broadband connections at home, but there's still probably around maybe 200, 250 students who don't have that access at home, so maybe 2 or 3 students in every class. And it's not like those students are going to say, "Hey, I don't have internet at home," right? Because it's not something you necessarily advertise. It's a challenge you have to overcome. And there are certainly ways to overcome it, but I'm telling you, as a teacher, I failed Chris for that first semester because I was making assumptions. I thought, he isn't doing his work, it isn't coming in. I was using Google Classroom at the time, you guys are using Canvas. The work wasn't coming in, and it took me a while to figure that out. So that was my aha moment. And I want to start with a few background statistics. I realize I only have a limited amount of time. 20% of students say they're impacted by the homework gap. They cannot do homework because they lack internet access outside of school. This is nationwide, right? So it might be slightly less at Sunset, but in other schools in our district, it's a lot more. 75% of school systems nationwide don't have any strategies. Very few school districts are thinking about this problem, right? They're turning teachers loose like myself, who sometimes make assumptions about students and their work ethic, when in reality, students don't have access at home. Ooh, forgot to turn my email off, sorry. 70% of teachers assign homework requiring access to broadband. I'm guessing it's Sunset. It's probably more like 90-95%. 42% of students surveyed believe they received a lower grade on an assignment because they lacked access to the internet. And here's the thing I want you to consider. Many students will say, I have access to the internet. And when you talk to them more, what I find out is that they have access via their mom or dad's cell phone, or maybe their own cell phone, right? It isn't the same as being able to hook your computer up to broadband for the types of work that some teachers are asking you to do. And finally, you should know that Sunset High School, I just checked this yesterday, Sunset High School has the highest rate of Canvas usage in the Beaverton School District. Teachers here at Sunset are using Canvas at a much higher rate, and other schools are coming along. But imagine if you don't have access at home, what that means, right? A teacher says, hey, your homework tonight is to contribute to a discussion, right? And maybe you have a job after school, or maybe you have to take care of a family member, or you have other responsibilities. That's the problem, right? And then when you don't make that comment and you don't have access, teachers like myself can sometimes make some assumptions, like, oh man, they're really bad at time management. They didn't get it done. All right, I was hoping for a bigger screen, but these are just some research statistics, and none of it's really surprising except for one of the graphs. The first one, you would expect that people with lower family incomes are more likely not to have internet. And there's, by ethnicity, whites tend to be more connected, Black and Hispanic a little less so. By community type, urban and suburban have more connections than rural. But graph number 4 is something I really want you to think about, because I bet it affects some of you. And that's the idea that broadband adoption at home is going down. People are getting rid of their broadband connections. And why is that? Or why wouldn't you want broadband at home? Well, people are making an economic choice. Do I pay my cell phone bill, or do I pay a broadband bill? And cell phone, is more useful in many respects to run your family, to get people where they need to go. So people are making that choice. And so people might say they have internet at home, which they do, technically, but they don't have broadband and the type of connection that you need to do some of the work that Sunset teachers and district teachers are assigning. So what I'd like you to do, if you have a cell phone, I'd like you to take a quick quiz for me. I think it's 5 questions. We'll just take a quick look at the results. And of course, I realize it's ironic that I'm talking about the digital divide, and not everyone has smartphones as well. Chromebooks can't access it? Can anybody access? Wow, that's embarrassing. All right. So, there's your current breakdown. Thanks, Michael. On average, how much online homework are you assigned per week? Many over 6. Looks like the majority is 2 to 4 hours a week. All right. So imagine if you didn't have access, that'd be kind of tough, right? A lot of teachers say, read the PDF in Canvas. You don't have access, it's going to be tough, right? Let's see what this says down here. Outside of school, what device do you end up using the most often to connect to the internet? Looks like the biggest is a smartphone, all right? And which makes sense. It might be the way that I worded the question, but if you're a smartphone-only person, you can still do work on Canvas. You can check your grades in Synergy. You can do student view, but you're limited, right? It's what people in broadband called underconnected, right? Outside of school, what is the most frequent way that you connect to the internet to complete homework? By home, high-speed broadband account. All right. And that is 90%, 87%. All right? That also probably holds true to the statistics, right? So think about this room, 87%, or Sunset High School, 87%. We're talking, if we generalize the statistic, there'd be a couple kids who don't have a high-speed connection at home. And I personally know of at least one Sunset student who has internet connection difficulties at home. All right? By a slight majority, you all do, right? And it might be that you yourself are that person, or it might be that you know someone close to you, but it impacts student success. Now, the problem that I have with this whole thing is in public education, if we are providing all this technology and we're setting up a few students or some students for failure, then we are not doing a good thing. And that's why the district is working hard to figure out this issue. Electronic resources, Chromebooks, Canvas, Student View, and electronic homework have helped students to get a better education. I just wanted to see where you guys were on this. You notice that the purple and the green, there are some people who don't necessarily buy into the fact that technology is helpful, but the vast majority think that, you know, the access and the things you can do is a good thing. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. So, what's being done? What's being done in our district? What's being done at Sunset? We're just starting to get out the word to all our schools that this isn't fair for everybody, the way the system's set up. We're trying to get teachers to realize that there are students in their classroom who don't have access at home. So when you, as a teacher, when you assign a Canvas assignment to go and comment or do a peer review online and it's due at 12 midnight, that's a disservice if you aren't taking into account those students who don't have access. As mentioned in the introduction, Sunset's a pilot school. We have hotspots in our media center. If you're sitting here now and you don't have access at home, you can go and check out a hotspot from our media center today. We only have 5 of them, and they get checked out pretty often. And then you can connect with your Chromebook at home. So if you have a big assignment due, plan ahead and you can do that. Some schools are creating a Wi-Fi maps of the area where you can go to hotspots, which is a good partial solution. I don't like it completely though, because when do a lot of kids do their homework? Not at 5 or 6 p.m. A lot of it's 8, 9, 10, 11 p.m., right? And are you really going to tell someone, oh yeah, go to McDonald's to get on their Wi-Fi network at 11 p.m. when it's pouring down rain? I wouldn't do that if I were a student. And if I were a parent, I wouldn't tell my student to do that. That's not good. But with that said, getting information out, there's a lot of places in the area that have Wi-Fi access. School libraries, including Sunset's, open a little bit earlier. We're keeping the library open later. So if you have a project and you need access, you can do that too. And we're looking into some grants to get hotspots for more hotspots for the district. Just want to close with one last story, and that is, I don't know if any of you have been to the new middle school, Timberland Middle School. It's up by Market of Choice. Have you been there or seen it? All right. One of my coworkers was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he said that he was by there over the weekend. And he saw about 8 or 9 kids hanging outside of school. And what were they doing? Yeah, they were getting access, because that's where they could get it, right? So you get access from McDonald's, Starbucks, or you go to a school. And once again, there's workarounds, and you can go to the library and things like that, but it's an issue that we have to be aware of, we have to solve. And, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is it might very well be that the next time you have a group presentation, you might have a lazy student in your group. You know, just kick them in the butt, do your work. However, be open to the idea that they might not have access at home. And if you can approach that subject, you know, in a friendly, compassionate way, it's going to be better for all of you, because you can organize your work differently so that student can still contribute, still find access perhaps. Maybe you meet at the library at sunset after school to do a lot of the critical work. But the model of everyone goes home, does their work, it'll all come into a Google Slides presentation, we'll present it. It doesn't work for everybody. People are coming in. Let me, I'm guessing that most of you aren't interested in the slide deck, but there it is if you like it. I write a blog on the digital divide. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday after school in the Media Center with Dr. Hampton. We run a homework club. And we usually have 40 or 50 students in there. You are all invited just to come and hang out. Some kids come for help. I'm a social studies and English guy. Dr. Hampton's a science and math guy. But you know what? Some kids show up after school because that's where they get access. All right. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments, anybody?
Awesome, one question. That'll make me feel good, like I've done a good job.
All right, so we see the schools are moving more towards Chromebooks and having online assignments, and you touched on that, but is there gonna need to be some reversal to include kids who don't have internet access? Or is it going to be, we need to get access for those kids at home so they can do the assignments the way we have them set up now?
That's an awesome question. I would be 100% the second response. I think we have to figure out how to get kids access at home. And it's not only education, right? I've been talking with people in the broadband industry, and healthcare is really interested in making sure families have access, because you check doctor's records, you check your records, you make appointments, you check lab results. Government programs, like programs of assistance programs for people, they're really interested in getting people online. So it's not a matter of like, oh, by the way, since some people don't have access, we're just going to shut it down. Because it's a really powerful thing and a really good thing that the district is doing, but we were just caught unaware. And we're trying to make people aware, and we're trying to find ways to make sure everyone has access, because we're leaving a lot of potential on the table, I think. If a student who doesn't have access at home doesn't mean they're less of a thinker. In fact, they could be a really great thinker, but if our system is set up, if it penalizes them for not having access, then I think we're doing a disservice. I think it's a moral imperative that we take care of this. Thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you. I think we are all set.